I stepped into the boardroom, carrying nothing but my files and my resolve. The air was sharp with coffee and hushed chatter until I entered. Silence dropped like a stone. The white manager at the head of the table smirked. His voice cut through the quiet. "You're in the wrong room. This space is for decision-makers." My grip tightened on the folder in my hand. My jaw clenched. I am a decision-maker. My words came steady, though my heart beat unevenly. He leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning me like I'd stumbled in from the street. "This is the executive session. Assistants wait outside." A low ripple moved across the room, uneasy coughs, shifting chairs, but not one voice rose for me. Not one. I stared at their faces. Eyes averted, lips pressed shut. Silence, my oldest enemy, sat at every corner of that table. I whispered, though every syllable struck harder than his insult. "You all know who I am. You all know why I'm here. Yet not a single one of you speaks." No answer. The manager tilted his head, his smile widening. "Don't make this uncomfortable. You people always read too much into things. You people." The phrase burned hotter than fire. I felt the weight of years of boardrooms where laughter dulled my voice, of polished smiles that hid knives. My throat tightened, but I forced my words out. "This discomfort isn't mine. It's yours." I walked in with dignity. "You're the ones stripping it bare." He chuckled, a hollow sound. "Strong words. But let's be clear, you're a guest here." I slammed my folder on the table, papers spilling. Gasps broke out around the room. My voice rose, not loud but sharp as glass. "I'm not your guest. I'm the CEO of this company. And the only reason you dare humiliate me in front of them is because you know they'll stay quiet." A woman at the far end of the table shifted, opened her mouth, then closed it. She lowered her eyes. Their silence dug deeper than his words. I breathed hard, steadying myself. Inside, my thoughts churned. How many times will I be told I don't belong? How many times will my skin enter the room before my name does? The manager shrugged, spreading his hands. "If you're truly in charge, prove it. Lead. Show us you deserve the chair." My lips curved into a bitter smile. "I don't need to prove what I already earned. You just can't bear that the chair doesn't look like you anymore." Murmurs rose. Someone muttered, "That's enough." But it was aimed at me, not him. Always me. I scanned their faces one last time, searching for courage in them. None. Only downcast eyes, clenched jaws, folded arms. Complicity. My chest ached, not from their cruelty, but from their silence. Silence was worse. Silence was consent. I gathered my papers slowly, deliberately. Each page slid back into the folder like a blade being sheathed. I looked at the manager, meeting his smirk with stillness. "I came here for work. You turned it into theater. But remember this." I paused, letting the weight settle. "Your comfort ends where my dignity begins." I walked to the head of the table, pulled the chair back, and sat down. The sound of the chair scraping across the floor rang louder than any voice in that room. Their silence followed. Heavy, suffocating, but I refused to bow beneath it. Inside, I whispered to myself, this is the day it changes. This is the day I stop carrying their shame as if it were mine. And though no one spoke, I could feel it. The shift, small but sharp. The seed of fear planted in the smirk of a man who had just realized I wasn't leaving. The moment the meeting broke, I felt the weight of eyes that pretended not to see me. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. "We need to address what just happened," I announced, my voice firmer than I felt. The manager chuckled, waving a hand like I was a child tugging at his sleeve. "You're overreacting. Don't be so sensitive." A hot pulse climbed my neck. Sensitive. Always that word, thrown like a leash. You questioned my right to sit at my own table. That's not sensitivity. That's humiliation. He leaned back, lips curling. I was joking. "Lighten up. Everyone knows I didn't mean it." I looked around, catching glances darting away. The woman who'd almost spoken earlier fixed her eyes on her notebook. Two men whispered, their voices a hiss against the silence. No one defended me. Do you all think this is a joke? My voice trembled, but not from weakness, from fury fighting for control. Silence. Always silence. The manager smirked, satisfied with their silence as his shield. See? No one else has a problem. Maybe the problem is you. The word struck like a lash. My fingers clenched around the folder I carried, edges cutting into my palm. The problem is that you believe silence is consent. You think their cowardice makes you right. It doesn't, he snorted. Cowardice. Or maybe they just don't see what you claim to see. You keep turning everything into race. Maybe that's your insecurity talking. My chest tightened, the air burning. How many times had I been told I was imagining it? That the smirk wasn't sharp, the comment not cruel, the dismissal not deliberate? I whispered, voice steady, though my stomach nodded. My insecurity didn't strip me of dignity in front of this room. Your words did. He stood now, close enough that I caught the faint scent of his cologne. You've got to toughen up. This is business, not therapy. I met his gaze, unflinching. Business doesn't excuse degradation. Leadership isn't cruelty dressed as humor. Behind him, one staff member muttered, "Let it go," barely audible. Another hissed back, "Shh." Their whispers cut deeper than knives. My heart pounded as I turned toward them. You'd rather whisper than speak. You'd rather protect him than the truth. Do you understand what that silence costs? No reply. Just lowered heads, scribbling pens, tapping fingers, noise to fill the void they refused to break. The manager laughed softly, shaking his head. You're making a scene. People don't respect scenes. I felt my throat tighten, the burn behind my eyes. But I refused to give him that satisfaction. No, people don't respect silence. They only exploit it. And you've lived off that silence your whole career. His smirk faltered, just for a second before he forced it back. Big words. But words won't save you when people stop listening. I leaned in, my voice low but sharp as broken glass. People always listen, even when they pretend they don't. And one day, their silence will condemn you louder than my voice ever could. For the first time, he blinked. He looked at the others, perhaps searching for a laugh, an ally, a nod. Nothing. Just silence. My chest ached with the weight of betrayal. Their silence belonged to him, not me. I gathered my folder, pressing it against my chest like armor. My voice shook, but I let it carry through the room. You think I'm alone? But I carry every silence you've forced into this room, every word swallowed by fear, every dignity you mocked. And I promise you, this won't stay buried in whispers. I turned toward the door, each step heavy with fire in my veins. Behind me, his voice rose, mocking, desperate. Go ahead. Make it a crusade. You'll lose. You always do. I stopped at the threshold, refusing to turn around. No, you've mistaken survival for losing. But the day survival learns to speak, that's the day you fall. I walked out, my pulse pounding in my ears. Their silence followed me like a shadow I could no longer carry quietly. Inside, I told myself, this isn't over. His voice won today because theirs didn't rise. But next time, mine will rise for all of them. And I swore, as the door shut behind me, that his smirk would one day collapse under the weight of my words. The corridor outside the boardroom still echoed with silence when he followed me. His footsteps were slow, deliberate, a predator keeping pace with prey. You really didn't have to make that a spectacle, he muttered, catching up. His smirk lingered like the boardroom walls hadn't yet closed behind us. I stopped, turned, my pulse drumming. A spectacle? You humiliated me in front of the entire staff. He lifted his hands in mock surrender. Relax, it was a joke. You people always turn banter into tragedy. The words lodged like glass in my chest. You people. Always the cloak he wore to slice and still claim innocence. You dressed hate in humor, I whispered, my fists trembling at my sides. Expecting me to laugh at my own chains. He chuckled, stepping closer. Chains? Don't be so dramatic. You're making history here. Look at you, the first. Shouldn't you be grateful instead of bitter? Grateful. The word tightened around my throat like a rope. I tasted the bitter memory of every hand that had clapped my back with congratulations that sounded more like surprise you made it. Grateful? My voice cracked, sharp, trembling. For what? For being mocked in my own office. For being tolerated instead of respected? His smile thinned, his tone lowering. You're oversensitive. No one else thought it was racist. Maybe it's just you. Maybe you've carried that chip too long. The gaslight burned. My nails bit into my palms. It's always just me, isn't it? Just me when my qualifications are questioned. Just me when jokes cut my dignity. Just me when silence protects you. Convenient how my pain is always exaggerated while your cruelty is always minimized. He sighed, shaking his head like a weary teacher correcting a stubborn child. If you want to last here, you need thicker skin. Laugh it off. That's how the world works. I stepped forward, close enough for him to see the tremor in my jaw. No, that's how you work. And you expect me to be complicit, to let you spit on me with a smile so your comfort isn't disturbed. He glanced at the passing glass wall, lowering his voice. Careful. You don't want to come across as hostile. People might start to think you're difficult. Difficult. The warning dripped with poison. A career-shaping brand meant to silence me. Difficult? My breath shook, but I forced the words out, measured and heavy. I call out your abuse and suddenly I'm difficult. You humiliate me publicly and you're still the respected one. Do you hear the imbalance in that? His jaw tightened. He shifted, crossing his arms. Look, I didn't mean anything by it. Maybe I went too far. But if you want allies, you don't build them by attacking everyone. The half-apology dangled, empty, a trick to make me appear the aggressor. Allies? I murmured, my throat raw. You mean accomplices in silence? I don't want them. Not if it means shrinking myself to fit your comfort? His eyes narrowed, the smirk fading at last. So this is the hill you want to die on? Words? I steadied my breath, heat rising in my chest. Words are what built your power. Words are what stripped me of mine in that room. Don't pretend they don't matter, now that they're being held against you. For the first time, he looked away. His eyes shifted to the window, his reflection staring back at him like it wasn't his own. The silence stretched, but this time it wasn't mine. It belonged to him. I stepped back, my voice lowering, firm. You'll keep calling it jokes, sensitivity, banter. But one day, those excuses will crumble under the weight of truth. And when they do, your laughter will choke in your throat. I turned, walking toward my office. My legs trembled with each step, but I refused to look back. Inside my chest, the words carved themselves deep. They mocked my chains as humor. But I will make their laughter my proof. And as I closed my door behind me, the echo of his forced chuckle still clung to the corridor. A hollow sound that no longer felt like victory. I barely had time to sit in my office before the first knock came. Can we talk? A voice whispered through the door. I opened it to see Daniel, one of the younger analysts, eyes darting nervously. He stepped inside, closing the door as if fear itself might slip through the cracks. I wanted to say I'm sorry for what happened out there, he murmured, wringing his hands. We didn't know what to say. I swallowed, my chest tightening. You knew enough to stay silent. That was a choice. His face flushed. It's not that simple. He's powerful. If we'd spoken, we'd have been next. I leaned forward, my voice low. Silence doesn't make you safe. It makes you complicit. Every time you stay quiet, his power grows. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it again. His eyes glistened, but no words followed. Another knock. Sarah slipped in, clutching her tablet to her chest like a shield. I agree with Daniel, she whispered. We're sorry. We wanted to help, but the timing, I snapped, my voice breaking. The timing? There's never a right time to defend dignity. There's only courage or silence, she flinched. We admire you, she murmured. We just don't want to lose our jobs. The bitterness in my throat thickened. So my humiliation was the price of your security. That's what admiration means to you? Neither answered. Their silence was louder than any apology. The door cracked again, this time without knocking. Michael walked in, his tone sharp. You're blowing this out of proportion. I froze. Out of proportion? He crossed his arms, eyes narrowed. Not everything is about race. You're making this bigger than it is. He jokes with everyone. Heat shot through me. He didn't tell everyone they were in the wrong room. He didn't tell everyone to wait outside. He told me. And you watched, Michael scoffed. You're turning us into villains for not jumping in. It was awkward, sure, but not some grand injustice, I whispered, my hands trembling. It was my dignity. And you call it awkward? Another voice chimed in, Laura standing just behind him. We don't want division in the team, she muttered, avoiding my eyes. Bringing race into this only makes things worse. My chest burned. Race was brought in the moment he dismissed me for being who I am. Pretending it's not about race doesn't make it less real. It just makes you comfortable. Laura's lips pressed tight. You're angry, I get it. But if you keep pushing this, you'll alienate everyone. Alienate. The word echoed in my head like chains rattling. Alienated? My voice shook, but I didn't lower it. I already was. The moment none of you spoke, I was left alone in that room. Don't pretend this is my division. It's yours. Daniel tried to interject, his voice soft. We want to do better. I turned on him, pain cracking through my words. Then prove it. Next time, don't whisper apologies in private. Speak when it matters. The room fell silent again. 4 colleagues, eyes lowered, lips pressed, bodies shifting. Silence. Always silence. I clenched my fists, forcing the words through the ache in my throat. You don't realize what your silence costs. It costs me my dignity, my belonging, my humanity. Every time you choose quiet, you hand him your loyalty. And you hand me betrayal. Daniel looked shattered. Sarah blinked back tears. Michael scowled. Laura shook her head. None spoke. I pointed toward the door, my voice cutting. If you can't stand with me when it matters, then don't stand in my office now. Go. No one moved at first. Then, one by one, they slipped out. Daniel lingering last, whispering, I'm sorry. The door clicked shut, leaving me with the sound of my own breath, heavy, uneven. Inside, the reflection rose. They wanted to call it awkward, exaggerated, divisive. Anything but what it was. Racism wears silence like armor. And today, they all chose to hold the shield for him. I sat alone, my pulse still hammering, and promised myself, next time I won't plead for their voices. I'll make mine impossible to ignore. The staff meeting began with the scrape of chairs and the shuffle of papers, but the weight in the room pressed heavier than any agenda. I stood at the head of the table, eyes scanning faces that refused to meet mine. The manager leaned back, arms crossed, his voice sharp enough to slice the air. Before we start, let's address the elephant in the room. Some people think I've been unfair. That I've been... What was the word? Racist. A murmur rippled through the staff. My pulse hammered, but I steadied my voice. Not some people. Me. I was humiliated here in this very space. He smirked, shaking his head. You're making this personal and divisive. This company needs unity, not accusations. I leaned forward, my hands gripping the table's edge. Unity without truth is just silence dressed up as peace. And truth only divides lies. Gasps flickered around the room. Someone muttered, he's right. Then silence swallowed it. The manager's eyes narrowed. Do you hear yourself? You're tearing the team apart. You think every word is an attack? Maybe you're the one making this toxic. My chest burned, but my voice grew sharper. Toxicity doesn't begin with the one who names the wound. It begins with the one who inflicted it, and the ones who let it bleed quietly. A chair creaked. Sarah's voice rose, timid but audible. He's not wrong. We did stay silent. The manager snapped his head toward her. Don't start. You know I joke with everyone. I turned to her, my tone softer. Did he joke with you about being in the wrong room? Did he tell you to wait outside? She shook her head, eyes dropping. No, I faced the room, my voice carrying. Then stop pretending it was just humor. It was a dismissal of my humanity, and every silence in this room made it acceptable. The tension thickened. Daniel whispered, almost too quietly. We should have said something. The manager cut in, his tone icy. This is pathetic. You all know I didn't mean it that way. He's just twisting it, trying to make himself a victim. The word victim cracked something inside me. I slammed my hand on the table, the sound jolting every head upward. Victim? I built this company from the ground up. I fought for every seat, every title, every contract. Don't you dare strip me of that by turning my pain into weakness. Murmurs spread, low, uncertain, but shifting. Michael muttered. He does have a point. We can't ignore it. The manager's face reddened. So what, you all want to crucify me now? Over a misunderstanding? I felt my breath steady, calm rising through the storm. This isn't about crucifixion. It's about accountability. You dismissed me because of what I look like, not what I've earned. And now you're trying to make the truth look like division. Laura's voice trembled from the far end. But if we admit this, if we call it what it is, everything changes. I met her eyes, holding them. Everything has to change. Because silence isn't neutrality, it's partnership with the oppressor. A silence followed, but it wasn't the same as before. This one was alive, restless, shifting. People whispered to each other, not just to themselves. The manager barked, "Enough! I won't let you hijack this meeting. We have real business to handle." I straightened, my voice calm but cutting. Business built on humiliation isn't business. It's rot disguised as profit. And the longer you ignore it, the more it poisons us all. For the first time, heads began to nod. Not many, but enough to feel the tide turn. The manager glared at me, then at them. "You're all being manipulated. He's playing the race card." My chest tightened, fury and grief colliding, but my voice stayed even. The only card on this table is truth. And the more you deny it, the more you expose yourself. Daniel lifted his head. He's right. We can't keep brushing it off. It wasn't a joke. We all know it, Sarah added softly. Silence hurt more than the words did, and I was part of that. The room buzzed, low voices rising, no longer just whispers. I caught fragments. He crossed a line. We should have stopped it. It did feel wrong. The manager slammed his fist against the table. "You're weak, all of you, letting him guilt you into betrayal." I leaned closer, my voice steady, my gaze locked on his. This isn't betrayal. This is truth finding its voice. And the louder it gets, the less room there is for your lies. The silence that followed wasn't suffocating anymore. It was heavy, yes, but it was breaking, cracking at the edges, light seeping through. I looked at them, at the shifting eyes, the clenched jaws. This is the moment you choose. Silence or truth, complicity or courage. Because neutrality isn't an option anymore. And I felt it, the tide turning slowly, painfully, but unmistakably. Inside, I whispered to myself, the seed is sprouting. His smirk is cracking. And soon silence won't save him. I walked the corridor the next morning and the whispers met me before the greetings did. Voices carried just enough to sting but not enough to confront. He's too aggressive. Unfit for the role. Always pulling the race card. I heard he lost it in the meeting. Their words dripped from doorways and coffee corners. My stomach twisted. Each whisper felt like a knife slid between my ribs. I slowed near the break room. Laughter spilled out, sharp and deliberate. I'm telling you, he can't handle pressure. Imagine him representing us with that temper. Did you see how red he got? Unprofessional, the burn in my chest rose. I stepped inside, their voices dropping instantly. Eyes darted toward the coffee machine, the floor, anywhere but me. I forced my voice steady. Unprofessional? Or unwilling to stay silent? No one answered. Only the hiss of the coffee machine filled the air, a man muttered, not meeting my eyes. We just don't want conflict at work, I snapped, my voice breaking the false calm. Conflict didn't start with me. It started when dignity was stripped in front of all of you. Silence pressed down. One woman whispered to another, too low but not enough to hide. He's making everything about himself. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. They wanted my voice quiet so theirs could remain clean. Later in the elevator, I caught another fragment. The manager said he's unstable, dangerous even. Dangerous. The word pulsed in my ears. A single seed planted in whispers could grow into a forest of lies. I turned, facing the two employees cornered with me in that steel box. Dangerous? For refusing to laugh at my own humiliation? One shifted uncomfortably, eyes glued to the floor. The other cleared his throat. We're just repeating what we heard. Maybe you should let it go. The words cut deeper than insults. Let it go. Bury it. Pretend silence was safety, I whispered back, bitter and raw. That's exactly what he counts on. That you'll all carry his lies while calling them harmless. The doors opened, and they slipped out quickly, leaving me alone with the echo of betrayal. By midday, the rumors had grown claws. In the hallway, I overheard two voices sharpen into laughter. CEO or crybaby? He's going to ruin this company. I turned the corner, my eyes locking on theirs. Their smiles froze, guilt flickering across their faces. If I ruin this company, I murmured, stepping closer, it won't be because I told the truth. It'll be because too many of you fed on lies. Neither spoke. Their silence confirmed everything. That evening, as I packed my files, the manager's voice floated in from the corridor, low but poisonous. He's not cut out for this. Too emotional, too fragile. We need real strength in this office, not theatrics. My jaw clenched. I opened my door just enough for him to see me. Strength isn't mocking dignity. It's standing against it, even when the room is silent. You confuse cruelty for leadership. His smirk returned, colder this time. And you confuse rebellion for respect. Keep this up, and you'll burn every bridge left. I stepped into the hallway, eyes fixed on his, then let them burn. I'd rather walk through flames than bow in silence. Gasps echoed from the staff lingering nearby. Their whispers would spread again, twisting, bending, but the fire in my chest refused to dim. Inside, I told myself, their gossip may stain my name, but it will never erase the truth. And truth has a way of echoing longer than lies. And as I closed my office door that night, I knew this war wasn't about whispers anymore. It was about who would speak louder when the walls finally cracked. The boardroom brimmed with tension. Every chair was filled, every gaze sharpened. I sat at the head, but the weight of whispers from the weak pressed down like chains. The manager cleared his throat, his voice smooth, practiced. Before we dive into numbers, I think it's critical we discuss leadership concerns. Specifically, the behavior of our CEO. My chest tightened. I braced myself. Unstable, hostile, he continued, pacing slowly. Multiple staff have approached me, worried about the outbursts. They fear he's steering us into chaos, murmurs rippled. My stomach twisted. So this was his strategy. Turn their whispers into daggers. I raised my voice, calm but firm. Show us their names. Their words. Not your version, he smirked. Confidentiality must be respected. But the pattern is clear. Aggression, divisiveness, paranoia. My jaw clenched. Aggression? You humiliated me publicly. Divisiveness? I asked for dignity. Paranoia. I call truth by its name, and you brand it as madness. The board shifted uncomfortably. His voice hardened. Look at the record. Deadlines slipping, staff morale plummeting. All since his so-called crusade began. I opened my folder, sliding papers across the table. Record? My voice cut sharp. Here's the actual record. Deadlines met ahead of schedule. Revenue up 6% this quarter. Staff turnover lower than last year. The papers landed before the directors, their eyes scanning, brows furrowing. His smile flickered. Numbers don't show the atmosphere. People feel unsafe. I leaned forward, my gaze locked on him. Unsafe because of me? Or unsafe because speaking the truth shatters the silence you hide behind? Daniel shifted in his chair, his voice uncertain but rising. The atmosphere changed when you mocked him in front of us. Gasps scattered. Sarah added quietly, that wasn't leadership. That was cruelty. The manager spun toward them, snapping. You're misremembering. It was harmless. A joke, I pressed on, my voice steady. If it was harmless, why are they still carrying it in their chests? Why do their voices tremble naming it now? The room hung in silence. He tugged at his collar, his composure cracking. He twists everything into racism, he barked, louder now. You're letting him manipulate you. My hand trembled on the table, but my words flowed like steel. I don't twist. I uncover. And the only thing manipulated here is the truth you've bent to protect yourself. A director cleared his throat, eyes narrowing at the manager. You said deadlines were missed. These numbers prove otherwise. Care to explain? The manager stammered, his voice faltering. I must have been misinformed. I felt a surge rise in my chest. His mask was slipping. Misinformed? I pressed. Or desperate enough to fabricate? The board leaned forward. The manager's face flushed, his hands trembling slightly. This is ridiculous, he muttered, his confidence thinning. We're wasting time, I spoke slowly, each word heavy. We're not wasting time. We're witnessing truth. And truth is watching your mask collapse under its own weight. He slammed his hand on the table, voice cracking. You think you're untouchable? You're nothing without their silence! The room froze. His words echoed louder than any of mine. Silence, his shield, turned into his confession, I whispered, letting the words pierce the quiet. Finally, you admit it. You've thrived on silence, but today, silence betrays you. Sarah's voice rose, firm this time. We can't support this anymore. Enough! Daniel nodded, voice breaking. He's right. We all knew it was wrong and we stayed quiet. But not anymore. The manager's eyes darted, desperate, searching for allies. None came. The directors murmured among themselves. One turned to me. The record shows your performance is solid. His claims don't hold. The manager's shoulders sagged. His smirk vanished, his voice trembling now. You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I stared at him. The weight of every silence, every dismissal, every smirk pressing into this moment. It always goes this far. That's what silence does. But today it ends. The room's quiet wasn't suffocating anymore. It was a verdict. His mask had shattered. Inside, I whispered to myself, his power was never in his words. It was in their silence. And now, silence belongs to me. The room was packed, the air heavy with expectation. Staff, board members, and even a few outsiders filled every seat. All eyes settled on me and him, two figures locked in a storm that could no longer be contained. The moderator cleared his throat. We are here to address formal complaints of misconduct. Both parties will speak. The manager rose first, his tone slippery, rehearsed. I've been painted unfairly. I have always acted in good faith. If anyone felt offended, it was never intentional. The real problem is divisive leadership. The CEO has created hostility, paranoia, and mistrust. Murmurs swept through the crowd. My stomach churned, but I stood, forcing my voice to stay steady. Hostility wasn't born from my words. It was born from his dismissal of my existence. He laughed sharply. There he goes again, making this about race. Always the victim. I leaned forward, my voice sharp enough to cut through the room. You never saw me as human. To you, I was always less, until I refused silence. The air shifted. A hush fell so deep I heard my own heartbeat pounding. He smirked, trying to recover. Strong words. But look around, you're alone. They all know I didn't mean it the way you claim. I scanned the room. Eyes met mine this time, not the floor. Daniel's voice broke the silence. We heard it, we saw it. It wasn't a joke. Sarah's voice followed, firmer now. We stayed quiet because we were afraid. But fear doesn't erase the truth. The manager's smile faltered, sweat beading on his brow. You're letting him manipulate you. He's twisting everything. I breathed deeply, letting calm wash through me before speaking. Manipulation thrives in darkness. Truth thrives in light. And right now, this room is flooded with it. The moderator gestured for me to continue. My chest tightened, but my voice grew stronger. You called me sensitive. You called me divisive. You spread rumors that I was unstable, dangerous. But every accusation was a mirror reflecting you. You thrived on silence, on complicity, on fear. Today, that silence ends. Gasps and murmurs rippled across the room. I caught fragments. He's right. We all knew. The manager's voice cracked as he shouted, This is madness! You can't prove— I cut him off, sliding a document onto the table. Emails, notes, contradictions in your own reports. Receipts of your lies. He snatched the papers, eyes darting desperately across them. His voice trembled. These are out of context. I stepped closer, my voice dropping low but carrying weight. Context doesn't change cruelty. Context doesn't erase humiliation. Context doesn't make silence moral. His hands shook. His face reddened. For the first time, his mask wasn't just slipping, it was gone. I didn't mean— His voice broke, his words choking in his throat. It wasn't supposed to. I looked straight into his eyes. It was never supposed to be seen. But today everyone sees you. Not the manager. Not the leader. Just a man stripped of excuses. The room was silent. No longer complicit, no longer suffocating. Silence now was judgment, heavy and condemning. I raised my head, my final words cutting through the air. You never saw me as human. But today, everyone here sees you as less than honest. And honesty is the only currency leadership can't fake. His chair scraped violently as he slumped back down, his face pale, his voice lost. Applause didn't come. What filled the room was heavier: acknowledgement, awakening, a shift no one could undo. Inside, I whispered to myself, his collapse isn't my victory. My victory is standing here, whole, while his lies crumble around him, and as the hearing closed, I knew this reckoning wasn't the end. It was the beginning of silence finally breaking its own chains. When the last of the board members drifted out, the room emptied like a tide pulling back from shore. The echoes of confrontation still clung to the air, but the noise had faded. All that was left was silence, and my heartbeat, steady, unbroken. Daniel lingered near the doorway, his voice soft. "You handled that. I've never seen anyone stand like that." I met his eyes, not with triumph, but with weariness. Standing isn't victory. It's survival, and survival has a cost. Sarah approached cautiously, her hands trembling as though words themselves were fragile. "We should have spoken sooner. We watched, and we did nothing. I don't expect forgiveness." Her words cracked open something in me. Not anger, just the ache of truth finally acknowledged. Silence cuts deeper than insults. But recognition even late is better than denial. A pause stretched between us. She swallowed hard. "If you'll let us, we want to do better. We want to listen now." I nodded slowly, the weight in my chest loosening, but not vanishing. Listening isn't charity. It's responsibility. Remember that. Another staff member, one who had whispered gossip weeks earlier, stepped forward, unable to meet my gaze. I repeated things I didn't even believe. "I thought it was safer to blend in." I was wrong. My voice stayed low even. Safety built on betrayal isn't safety. It's complicity. "You know that now," he whispered back, broken. "Yes, I do." I leaned against the edge of the table, exhaustion settling into my bones. Their voices blurred for a moment, and in that blur I felt the weight of years. Every smirk, every dismissal. Every time my competence was measured against prejudice rather than performance. Flashbacks came in fragments, laughter sharp as glass, whispered slurs dressed as jokes, doors closed when I entered. They had asked me to laugh at my own chains, and now, finally, those chains clattered loud enough for them to hear. Daniel's voice broke through again, stronger this time. "What you did today, it changes everything here." I shook my head. "It only changes something if you don't slip back into silence tomorrow." My voice was never the problem. "Your silence was." He stiffened, then nodded firmly. "No more silence." For the first time since stepping into that office weeks ago, I believed him. The room grew quiet again. No applause, no cheer. Just quiet. It wasn't emptiness. It was a quiet that held weight, like earth after rain, ready to grow something new if tended properly. I gathered my things slowly. My hand lingered on the chair where I had sat, the same chair where humiliation had once burned me alive. Now it was just wood and fabric. The sting had been stripped away. As I moved to the door, Sarah whispered one last time. "You deserved better from us." I turned back, my voice calm, my eyes steady. "Better isn't owed tomorrow. Better is owed today. Decide what you'll be when silence calls your name again." I walked out, the corridor stretching before me, light spilling through tall windows. The silence followed, but it no longer felt like abandonment. It felt like acknowledgement, and in my chest words formed with clarity sharp as glass. They wanted me silent. Instead, my voice became their mirror.